if I was to tell you how I made the first £1,000,000, I was tell you how I made the second one. If I was to tell you how I done all that stuff, you wouldn't do it, because it's just that nowadays we're not in an environment where it's a lack of knowledge or a lack of information that's holding us back. It's actually a lack of action. Good morning, people. I'm gonna just tell you a little story here, but before I tell you the story, I'll tell you why I'm telling you this story right now. I had to make one of the most difficult decisions in a long while there last night, and then again this morning. I'm trying to get the light right here, it's a bit shiny. I'm basically sitting in a car park here waiting to meet a few friends, and we're going for a run. And last night we had a babysitter take the baby, so I was like, oh, brilliant. Sleep. I'll be able to get a full night's sleep, and I'll be able to wake up on my own tomorrow. And then I'd agreed to go on a run. I'm like, oh, why did I do that? You know, I was just caught. I still feel asleep now. And then I get down here to the meeting point 20 minutes early. But when I actually got to the meeting point 20 minutes early, I checked the time. I was actually an hour early. So I'm sitting here saying, I could be in bed for an hour. I'm like, could I just close my eyes here now and go to sleep? Because sleep is a premium when you have a new baby, you know. But anyways, look, let me tell you a story here about... is it an Irish thing or is it a people thing? I don't know, but never tell anybody your business, right? So, my dad's an interesting character altogether, right? He really is. And if anybody knows my dad, just write your dad in the comments, right? Anybody that's watching this, right? He's an interesting character, and we'll say that, and we'll say no more, right? Well, he brought me up that whatever you say to people, say nothing. Never tell anyone your business. Don't open your mouth to anybody. If somebody asks you a question, just say nothing. Just walk away. Don't talk to them. Like, if anybody's inquiring about your business, never tell anybody anything. This was ingrained in me since I was a kid. So I could be a kid and I would talk to you without saying nothing. Right? That was the thing. Whatever you say nothing. And whoever you speak to, make sure you tell them nothing. This was, as a kid, this was the way it was, right? And I just grew up like that, and loose lips sink ships and never talk out school and all that sort of carry on. That was who I was. That's how I grew up, right? And then one day I was in my house, and this is only about, I could actually tell you the date it was, but this was like 10 years ago or less, right? Probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And I was actually cleaning my fish tank in my living room, right? And my uncle rang me, and he's like, "Hey Joseph, how you doing?" So me ma, me dad, me uncles, me aunties call me Joseph, and the revenue calls me Joseph, but everybody else calls me Joe. Even me sister, me niece and nephews, they call me Uncle Joe or Joe, right? But it's just only certain few people call me Joseph. So, how's it going, Joseph? How are you getting on? I was like, yeah, all good, yeah, how are you? Because, you know, my uncle, he actually lives not too far from where I am. I'm in Ballyfermot now at the minute. He doesn't live too far. He's sound, he is, and I don't talk to him as much as I should. Even now, I must actually text him when I hang up the video here. I don't talk to him as much as I should, but he's a real cool fella, and we get on well, and we have a good catch up. And I kind of talk to him like he's me mate. And he says to me, so the question started, how's things? How have you been getting on these days? And I just says, oh great, yeah, I bought a house there the other day. And he's like, oh really, did you? He says, jeez, I never thought you were still doing that. And this is how long it was since we've been talking to him since. And I was like, yeah. And the conversation just shifted, and it went towards the reason he was ringing me. And to be honest, I don't even know why he was ringing me now. But I can remember feeling, Jesus, why did I even tell him that? Because it's none of his business that I bought a house. So why have I told him that I bought a house? Did I tell him I bought a house to make me be able to boast about it? Or did I tell him? I don't know why I told him. And I felt like a bit of a sap, to be honest, telling somebody who was none of his business that I bought a house, even though he's my uncle. So the chat went on and finished up, hung up the call, and I continued on cleaning my fish tank, right? So then he rang me about, I don't know, a week, not even a week or so later. Joe, how's it going? I was like, Jesus, you know, second time hearing from you in a week or so, how's things? He says, I just want to ask you something there. It was only when you told me the other day that you bought a house that I thought this might suit you, but he's a taxi driver, right? He says, I had a woman in the car there the other day. She's a real old woman, and my mate brings her to collect her shopping, but my mate was gone on holiday. So this woman has this particular taxi driver that picks her up a certain time every week, takes her to do her shopping. He waits outside for her and then brings her back. And because my uncle's friend had gone on holidays, he asked my uncle, will you make sure and take care of this woman if she does ring? Actually, it wasn't even she does ring. You just have to be at her house at this time on this day. So he's like, yeah, no problem. So he went down to the house and she started talking to him. And she's a real old woman. And she just started spilling the beans, pouring her heart out, whatever you want to talk to. She started telling her his business, telling him her business. And her business at the time was that she lived in the house. She was an old woman and she lived in the house with her nephew. And the house was falling to rack and ruin. And she had agreed with her nephew to sell the house to her nephew for a really cheap price. And all she was doing with the money that the nephew gave her for the house was she was spending it back on the house and doing the house up to make it comfortable. And then, you know, when she passes on, the house is left to her nephew. Makes sense. Families sell houses to each other all the time, really cheap. But her nephew then said, oh, well, if I don't buy this house off you and you die, I'm going to get the house anyway, so why should I pay you? And she was absolutely heartbroken because all she wanted the money for was to spend back on the house. So she said it to my uncle, who was distraught. Well, she was a bit distraught about it, and she said to my uncle. And my uncle said, well, I can say to my nephew, he's in that business. He might actually do you a deal and buy the house off you. So she said to me, in between the jigs and the rails, and it took a few months to get the thing over the line, we actually done a deal with her where we refurbed the whole house for her to bring her up to a comfortable standard. And we gave her a few quid. Now, we don't collect any rent off the house. She lives there. She's allowed to live there till the day she dies. But we bought the house off her really cheaply. And we done up the whole house. And we gave her a few quid. So she was happy out. So it's win-win for her and it's win-win for us. And if I didn't have told him my business, I wouldn't have got that deal, right? And as I go on and I learn more and more about business, I realise, like, all the biggest companies in the world are spending millions of euros on their brand. Like, you know, how much money has, you know, if I just pointed at that, you know that that's Nike, you know that that slogan is just do it. How much money has Nike had to invest so that, like, a lad sitting in the Jeep in Ballyfermot on a Sunday morning knows what this means? You know, they're telling everybody their business all the time. So my advice to anybody, as weird as it may sound, is tell everybody your business. Because I've now got two businesses, right? I've got my property investing business, and we've kind of got two businesses in that. We got like a buy and hold and a buy and flip business. So I've got two businesses. We've nearly got 100 viewers there, guys. If anybody wants to share this, you'd be an absolute legend, and we get 100 viewers on a Sunday morning. But I've got two businesses, right? I've got my property side, and then I've got my business mentorship side. And my business mentorship side grew purely based on the fact that I start telling everybody my business. So I started using social media, and wasn't even like, it didn't even start with social media. It started with me telling people. So when I left the building game, like, because I ran my company in a certain way, and if anybody knows my old building company, Insurance Works, it was a very good company and it was very unique in how it ran. And, you know, we done all right. We made a few quid there. And when I left that, like, I never told anybody the inner workings of how my business worked. But when I left the building game, I just started talking more openly with my buddies and people that I knew that were in the building game, and I started showing them certain things that I used and certain ways that I done things when I was in the building game, and that helped them. And that's how then people kept asking me more and more questions, and then it kind of blew up. But I only learned to start telling people my business later on, and then by the time I started using social media, I was already comfortable talking to people about my business. So my suggestion to yourself is, if you think you need to keep your cards close to your chest, you're wrong. Like, if I was to sit down here and tell you, go back to the very first deal I done, if I was to tell you how I made the first £1,000,000, I was to tell you how I made the second one, if I was to tell you how I done all that stuff, you wouldn't do it, because it's just that nowadays we're not in an environment where it's a lack of knowledge or a lack of information that's holding us back. It's actually a lack of action. And you know, I see people connect with me all the time. Hey Joe, you know what? I like what you do. You remind me of yourself. I'm exactly like you. And I'll talk to them for 10 minutes about their work. I'm like, they are nothing like me. They might have the brains that I have. In fact, in a lot of cases, they'll have more brains than what I have. But they definitely don't have the determination, and they definitely don't have what it takes to succeed a lot of the time, because they're focusing on the wrong thing. They're focusing on knowledge. They're focusing on information, but they're not focusing on action, you know. Whereas, like, I'm on it every single day, to the point where I see people saying things that you don't need to work that much and all that, and I'm like, you know, they say things about other people don't need to work that much, and I'm like, well, for me, I do. I'm just flat to the mat every single day. I got here, like, this is work to me. But see, work to me nowadays is a lot easier than what it was. Like, I just class work as carrying blocks, you know, in the rain, stacking them out, you know, or standing in a trench with your toes freezing. Do you ever get that when you're walking on site? Maybe it's just me, but your toes are so cold. It's just like rings of ice around each toe. And then, you know, if you have a glove on one hand with the block and the other hands are freezing, I'm like, oh man, that to me is hard work, you know. And if I had to sit at a laptop for 10 hours, although it can be brain damage, I don't class it as hard work, because what I really class as what my definition of hard work was where I started from, if that makes sense, you know. So look, I just wanted to share that little story with you guys there. So that's a little story from a voluntarily sleep deprived Joe Doyle. Like today, I can't believe that I didn't take the opportunity to check the time that I was supposed to meet my friends here and and get an extra hour in bed, you know. But at least I got to chat to you beautiful people here this morning, you know. So if you think that you should not, if you actually, you know what, if you know somebody who says don't ever tell anybody your business, right, give them this video, share this video with them, send it to them or tag them in it. The thing is, if you know somebody who says don't ever tell anybody your business, they're probably the sort of people that don't use social media. And when I talk about people that don't use social media, it kind of reminds me, let's just imagine this scenario. Let's just say like 300, 400, 500 years ago, whatever, I don't know, newspapers start coming out where most people couldn't read. Because remember, years ago, only monks could read and highly educated people could read. Well, when reading started becoming available to the masses, to most people, right? Imagine the ordinary fella saying, oh sure, there's no point in me learning to read. What would you want to do that for, you know? And I think it's the same when people aren't using the technology, you know. So guys, look, that's the story. Have you any comments there I need to answer? Hold on. I didn't answer any comments there yesterday, and then when I got off the video, there was loads of comments there. Now we're getting loads of notifications here, but I'm not seeing comments. So that's the story, guys. I'm now out to do a 30-kilometer run, whilst remaining inside me 5 kilometers. Of course, you know, my friends will be here now in the next few minutes, and we're good to go. I'm actually parked in an empty car park across 2 disabled spaces, because I had to get the Jeep at an angle. You can see a little shine in my face. You had to get a Jeep at an angle to block the sun. I've got this here, look at blocking the sun here. So, you know, I'm breaking every rule. Two disabled car parking spaces, not just one, in an empty car park on a Sunday morning. If the guards come in now, they'll be measuring how far I am, and am I outside my 5 kilometers or whatever else, you know. But guys, listen, thank you for being here. Go make some money today. See you at the top.